Welcome to Best in Faction.
The next generation.
A podcast with the most vestigial attachment to FLG events.
I'm Tyler.
I'm Nick.
And I'm Lucas.
And today is not quite the day of all days yet, because that'll be next week and the week after that. But today is the day before the day of all days, because we are preparing for the one, the only Las Vegas Open in the year of our Lord 2024. And it is shaping up to be possibly the most interesting LVO in a minute. We'll talk about where the tournament stands at large, but it's definitely an interesting spot. We're going to get into today what the event is, how you should be preparing if you're going, a whole bunch of stuff that people should really know, and what we can expect there in terms of meta and whatnot. But before then, I got to check in with the boys and see how everything's going around the horn. How are we doing today, Lucas?
Pretty good overall. Some ups and downs this week. I'm continuing to soldier on in my job search, which is proving increasingly frustrating and making me more jaded about life. But you know what? You got to get through it, and eventually I'll get somewhere. But I did, on the more positive note, have my first coaching call this week for Warhammer. So for the first time in my life, well, actually that's not entirely true, but made a bunch of money to talk about Warhammer or do something Warhammer related, which is super sick, other than win a tournament. So that was pretty damn cool. And I'm going to be doing more coaching going forward. So that's super, super, super cool. And so me and this dude are just talking about Chaos Knights, and that was really fun. So hopefully that's going to be a regular occurrence going forward. So some ups and downs, but overall doing okay. I also picked up a new hobby project. I haven't done a lot of orcs in a while. I finished my Gretchen last week, which was something I've wanted to do for a while. And then I also started this Death Killer War Trike, which is pretty cool. And I've never been a fan of the Zoomer orcs, but I mean, I say that about every single new orc model that comes out, and all I really need to do to become a fan of it is just get the actual thing, take off the bits I don't like, and add some stuff that I do. So hopefully some pictures of this guy being finished in the next week or two will be blessing the hobby channels and discords going forward. So just keep on the lookout for that. How you doing, Nick?
Dude, I'm doing well. Little bit of hobby myself, unrelated to Warhammer. I decided to finally buckle down and build my first computer, and I just got that done tonight, nearly an hour before our show. I'm not streaming from the new computer. I got it all built, and I was super excited to stream from it, and then I'm like, oh wait, it does not have an inbuilt camera like my laptop does, and I did not buy an external camera. So maybe future shows will be streamed from the new thing, which that was a honestly super fun experience. I'd kind of avoided doing that for a really long time. But I don't know. I love digging deep into hobbies and digging deep into all right, I don't know anything about this. Let's go learn everything there is to accomplish what I need to accomplish with it. That sort of thing, and I apply that same kind of idea to Warhammer whenever I dive into a new book or whenever there's a faction that really interests me. So yeah, it was fun to kind of get the brain juice flowing there and build it with my own two hands, and a little bit of help from people in our community Discord that knew a little bit more about it than I did. So yeah. How about you, Tyler? How are you doing on this LVO Miss Eve?
I'm doing real good. Yeah, working through a whole bunch of hobby stuff to get the not the GSC so much as the guard up and running. I've got my Cadians that I customized out with all the different Brood Brother bits, and a couple of Catechins with flamers, and got my box full of Taroks over here that I'm working on painting up. So having a good time in terms of hobby. We had our our second team fitness meeting for Team USA yesterday, and that got Lucas and I pretty excited to start doing some fasted cardio, getting some early morning walks going on. We started that today, and that was awesome. Felt real great to get the blood flowing early in the day. So excited to see where that takes us in the future. But yeah, very excited about what's coming down the pike. It's going to be a good season to come. Sweet. Wonderful time. And also I have dinner now. That's very exciting. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about... I guess we should kind of address the elephant in the room there. We've got a couple of changes going on. We got the Necron's FAQ. Nick, as the resident faction expert there, what came out in that FAQ and how we're feeling about it? My friend, you were muted.
Yeah, I am muted. Whoops. There we go. The main thing in the FAQ that is certainly on everyone's mind is the major errata to the Canoptek Court detachment. This is the detachment that had the pylons, kind of the objectives. It would give you full hit rerolls, and so one of the big combos in that detachment was throwing a Plasmancer in a squad of Immortals, which gave the unit the Cryptek keyword and gave them access to the full hit rerolls as part of the Canoptek control nodes. And it also gave them access to the 2 CP devastating wounds for Cryptek units or Canoptek unit stratagem. And it was also a battle tactic, so you could throw an Overlord in there to make it 0 CP, and that Overlord was the new teleporty guy who would make them auto-advance 6. Lucas, are you still there? All right, it appears Tyler's internet has crashed.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yep. All right, cool. Making sure my internet didn't crash. We are having a little bit of inclement weather over here in Portland, so there's been a little bit of spottiness lately.
Boy's back.
But yes, he is back. All right, cool. As I was saying about the change there, the major change is they made it now so that the stratagem only gives devastating wounds to Cryptek models and Canoptek models. This means that you can use it on the Immortal squad. The only guy who will get dev wounds, though, is the Plasmancer in the squad, since he is the only Cryptek model or Canoptek model in the squad. This is certainly a blow to the Canoptek army, because the main shtick with this army was spamming 18 wraiths, who were very, very tanky, but their damage was non-existent. And then you had, honestly, probably 2 squads of these Immortals just waiting as 2 bullets in the chamber that would come blasting out and kill anything your opponent decided to expose. Yeah, we were just talking about this change before the show. I think that we all have a lot of opinions about this.
Yeah, unless anyone feels particularly inclined, I can go ahead and start.
Go ahead, man.
I think this is a god-awful change. So the Necron Codex has been out for what, 1 month? And
yes,
we have, this is about the time that we usually get erratas and FAQs to not amend, but just answer questions and fix things that GW did not anticipate. But considering that really makes me feel like this change was something that GW did not. They wanted the effect to just happen on the models that you're supposed to take in the Canoptek detachment, right? The Canoptek and the Cryptek dudes, and they work together. But this guts the stratagem to an unbelievable degree. Tyler and I were, I think it was Tyler and I, someone and I were just looking through. Yeah, Tyler and I the other day were looking through what units you want to use this on, and the best unit now is Wraiths, which on average do 2 or 3 devastating wounds with this. It's just it's such horrible value for 2 CP. So I personally hope, there's a whole bunch of stratagems right now in the game that are unusably bad. So this just joins the litany of stratagems that will almost never see play. But ideally, I hope they come back and revisit this and tweak it in some way so that it becomes a little bit more usable, because I feel like this was so absurdly heavy-handed. And even though it was just, in my mind, them amending a change that did not anticipate, working the way that it did when the Codex was released, I think it's a mistake to allow the stratagem to go that heavily punished, with no kind of interaction to buff it back up a little bit. So I'm kind of bummed out. I don't think Immortals were all that insane. Obviously, they did a insane amount of mortal wounds. Like, people are comparing them to Kasrkin, but there's a lot more counterplay than Kasrkin. Just the number of guns they shoot at you is a lot less, and B, there's a lot more counterplay with where you put your models. Like, if you don't stand on an objective, which, I mean, 40k is a game about standing on objectives, but at the end of the day, you do have agency over what you choose to put there and not. You're going to half the amount of mortal wounds that are coming your way. So, it is not that bad. It's really only a devastating package, and it's an expensive package as well, right? Obviously, the strap becomes free, but you have to buy 2 characters. You give up a ton of Assassinate. You have to buy this expensive Immortal Squad, which at the end of the day, they're just 1 wound T3 or T5 dudes with a 3-up save. They are not hard to kill by any stretch of the imagination. You have to take all of this, invest all this, and then you shoot 1 bullet at 1 unit on an objective, probably obliterate it, and then you get counterpunched and die in turn. So I thought the unit was fine, honestly. I thought it was pretty fun to play around. I really enjoyed the kind of trifecta of cool units in the Canoptic detachment, right? There's like the Wraiths that go and skirmish and bog you down and stand on objectives with OC. And then there's these couple of like big, tanky, impossible to kill dudes that hit super hard. That's the Catan. So they're doing something a little bit different. And the Immortals are kind of like being the backfield little bastards running around and zapping you. And if you ever get a line on them, they vaporize. It's like the cool little trio of unit types there. And all of a sudden, one of them has just gone poof. Another detachment's just about big, tough dudes with 5-up Feel No Pain. Like, I like that Necrons is overall an archetype, or an overall a faction that just emphasizes being big, tough units, but it's a bummer to see one of the coolest parts of the detachment cut out, in my opinion. So I'm not a fan of this change, even if it was just to amend something that GW didn't anticipate. What about you guys?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that there's definitely a bit of, oh, this isn't what we wanted here. I think there's also a bit of, like, I don't know, PTSD from Kasrkin and from Sternguard and Wraith Knights. And, devastating wounds in general has been a very controversial rule that was added to the game in the first place. It felt reminiscent of when Strength D came into the game in 7th edition, of like, oh, wow, this is just a stupid thing. And they finally got it reined in to the point that I don't think anyone's complaining about dev wounds, other than Custodes, but, fuck those guys, so who cares? And having an opportunity to seeing a potentiality where things could slip and dev wounds could get a little out of control again, I can understand the need to overreact to that. But yeah, I played into the court a couple of times. At no point in time, other than the very first time I got shot at, did I ever think the Immortals were out of control. And admittedly, the first time I was very upset. But the second time I was like, yeah, cool, that's a unit. It's like 400 points. It does a thing. It's a pretty predictable thing. It's pretty easy to play around. Yeah. And it's a bummer because now the Necron lists that are going to be good is going to be just 11 fucking Catan. 5, but which is a very stupid archetype that I think from a lore perspective and a gameplay perspective is both boring and stupid.
Yeah. I think there's a lot more intricate changes they could have done. Like, obviously, if this was an unintended combo, like if they, like we were saying before the show, like if this was just supposed to be like, oh, we want it to just be the Canoptech detachment, very cool. This stratagem's terrible though. Like if you were only meant to be using it on raids, it's 2 CP, it's a battle tactic, and raids have no way to take an overlord, so they can't even make it free. They have, if you want them to have decent-ish melee, they have very low volume of attacks. Or I guess you could run the higher volume of attacks. And, I mean, I don't think those are twin-linked, so I don't think they have, any source of wound rerolls at all. And I mean, obviously, yeah.
There's a enhancement in Canoptech Core for reroll 1s to wound, but I think it's expensive, and obviously that's nothing like full rerolls.
That's cool. I think that they could have done a few more changes. Like, they could have capped the dev wounds. We haven't ran into... Because I remember back in 9th edition, whenever these, mortal wound stratagems got out of hand, they usually just were, 6 per phase. They could have done something like that. 6, 10, whatever they think is a fair amount of dev wounds for 400 points, right? It was kind of silly that sometimes you could do anywhere between 8 to like 23 dev wounds if you popped off. Like, all right, cool. That was a little crazy. But yeah, like you guys said, there was definitely a lot of ways to counterplay around it, and it's not a tanky unit by like any stretch of the imagination.
Another way to rein it in could have been, sorry to interrupt you, but just to like
No, go ahead.
build off that for half a sec. Another way to rein it in could have been one of the things that was a little bit silly about it was the fact that it was just free when the point of the strat was that it's supposed to be expensive.
Not a battle tactic. Yeah.
Make it not a battle tactic, or make the Overlord ability like discount strats by 1, so it still makes 1 CP strats free, 2 CP goes to 1, anything like that, you know?
Yeah. Because like a big thing when I was playing Canoptek Core, I found you could just use that for free every turn, and then you had like 3 CP sitting around to use all your reactive strats. Make it a choice. If you want to do the reactive stuff to mess with your opponent, now you don't get to hit them as hard next turn. I loved the idea of like throwing Cryptex in with other squads. It's like the Cryptex now buff them up with their arcane knowledge. That's a really cool thing to have in the detachment. And like the Cryptex give them full hit rerolls. That's a unique thing to that detachment. Yes, sure, Cryptex will give whatever unit they join full hit rerolls now. But like if that unit's already Canoptic, it's going to be getting it anyways, right? So like the Cryptek joining the raids doesn't matter for that. So I think it is a little bit of a boring change, especially because Canoptek court lists were kind of boring outside of that, like just 18 raids, you know? The bright side of this, though, is I do think it's opened up a lot more detachments, because it definitely kind of felt like people were just, like, plugging 18 raids, 20 immortals, a Catan or 2, boom, here we go, I'm going to go 4-1, maybe 5-0, right? I've been seeing people talk about Awakened Dynasties a lot now, which is like super sick. I've been seeing people were always on the fence, like, is Hypercrypt better? Like, Hypercrypt is more, cool tools than Canoptek, and now people are really checking out Hypercrypt. It makes Obeisance Phalanx a little more enticing. I still don't think that's as powerful as Hypercrypt or Awakened, but hey, whatever makes the cool Noble King detachment a little better is hype with me. So, like, yes, it is a dumb, kind of boring change, but it has opened up the book a little bit more, too. So
we shall see.
The last thing.
Go for it.
The last thing one last thing I want to say on this is, even if the GW made the change because of it was something that they didn't anticipate, I think as a community we could all use this as kind of an example of a case where even if we didn't actually influence that GW decision as a community, I think we can all like kind of take a chill pill when stuff comes out. And I'm guilty of this too. Like we're all kind of reactionary because we want the new rules. And when we see something that's good, we love being like, oh, that's insane. This is ridiculous. But at the end of the day, GW does listen to that kind of stuff, I feel like, for better or for ill. And I feel like there can definitely be more cases in the future where our reactionary attitudes towards new stuff can cause them to over nerf stuff, or just things like that. So I think, just as a cautionary tale, to just kind of like take a chill pill when new stuff comes out, because people develop counters to metas, and stuff isn't as ridiculous as it seems on paper. So
absolutely. For those of y'all who are listening to this episode because you are attending the Las Vegas Open, you should know that this FAQ does slide in just like a day before the rules cutoff. So it will be in effect in Vegas if you are playing Necrons or playing against Necrons. I hope you are not planning on having devastating wounds on your Immortals. And if you were, I would advise you change your list immediately.
If you painted 20 Immortals already and don't want to repaint some models, might I recommend checking out Awakened Dynasty. There's some cool stuff in there, especially with Xeris making buffing them as battle line. And Immortals aren't too bad in Hypercrypt either. And even in Obeisance. Honestly, Immortals are one of the huge winners of the Codex. They're good in like every detachment outside of like Annihilation Legion. But if you're playing Annihilation Legion, I tip my hat to you and good luck going 3-2 or something. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
If
you, if instead you're actually in a fit of rage and currently considering just like discarding your Immortals, send them to me. I would like them. They're cool models.
Yeah, if you painted them well, I'll take them too.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll find use for them, I'm sure.
I could use some new. Immortals.
Anyway, But yes, that kind of transitions me in nicely into the first topic that I wanted to go over, which is some of the stuff that you need to know in terms of rules if you're going to LVO. I don't feel like their stuff is very well publicized if you're not like looking exactly where they're talking. So first and foremost, definitely check out the player pack. It's linked on the website. You have to get to the player pack. You have to go to the website, go to their events, go to the tickets, like you're going to buy a ticket, and it's linked there. It might be linked in the BCP at this point if you're in that as well. But I, as an Android user, I hate when people just link things in BCP because you can't even click on them. So get there one way or another. You'll also see in the player pack that there is, as there often is, an LVO FAQ. There's a bunch of different stuff going on there. As a general rule of thumb, the Atlanta FAQ from World Championships of Warhammer has been adopted by FLG. They can't say that, and I have my suspicions as to why exactly they can't say that. But I don't see a single thing that is not in line with it. And I also see a lot of official things saying, what? No, we're not using the FAQ, but if you have a question, you should ask it.
Whatever happened to that ruling on the -1 damage thing? You know, the whole grim demeanor and ignore modifiers? I just saw like a week ago that LVO said that it does ignore -1 damage in AOC. Is that still true?
Let me double check that because this stuff is getting updated regularly.
It does. Yeah, it does ignore -1 damage in AOC.
Oh, that's not in line with the WCW FAQ.
Alrighty, so I stand corrected. Not everything lines up quite like that, but a number of other changes do, particularly all the ones that are relevant to Gene Stealer cultists. We're getting infinite bombas.
Which version of GSC are we playing, dude?
Yeah, we're playing. You get the bombs back when the unit comes back. You don't get bombs back. You don't get out of having used the bombs by being in a truck, though. The truck throws the bombs, and you've lost the bombs. You do not trigger reactive stuff by dropping in within 12.
Do you get to deep strike turn 1 if you start on the board?
Yes, we do get to use shadows to arrive turn 1. I believe that's all the relevant rulings.
Cool. So there you go. That's LVO's version of GSC. You know, different from WTCs and WCWs and GW London, or not GW London, whatever the UKTC is, and also GW Tacoma. So yeah,
that's the current state of the faction. It's going to be fun. We're going to have a great time. So that's what that is. So head over to that. I'll try to link these things in the YouTube description. Can I do that? I can literally do that live. I'm just going to add this to the description. LVO FAQ. Here's a Google Sheet, and also the I've got the player pack. LVO player pack is right there as well. Great. Save changes. So, what? No. It's happening right now. I don't know if I can change that live. I'll add those to the description on YouTube. Whatever the case. If you have further questions that are not covered there, you can submit those still. They will be answered as quickly as possible. And if you get an answer that doesn't make any kind of sense, that happens sometimes, I don't know, shoot someone a message and see what you can do about it. I know I've gotten a couple of things fixed as rulings have been inconsistent. Jan L. Chop Shop asks if we're all going to be at LVO. I believe that I am the only member of the show that will be at LVO this year. Lucas and Nick taking a back seat, which kind of moves on to the second thing that I wanted to mention here, which is who the hell is going to Vegas? Having perused the roster of currently registered people on BCP, and admittedly, because the way that Frontline Gaming does their tickets not directly through BCP, to avoid giving them any money, they not everyone is on the roster yet who has a ticket, so we'll see what it ends up being. But It seems like there's been a pretty large exodus away from the event, including first and foremost my two co-hosts here. You guys want to speak a little bit to what it is that's keeping y'all from going to Vegas, and what you think is keeping the wider community at large, certainly at the upper echelon, from showing up in the numbers that they have historically, as this is looking like the softest LVO, I guess, is a way of putting it, that I've seen in years.
You want to go first, Lucas, or should I?
Go for it.
Yeah. I think we went last year. For me, it was my first year. I don't know if it was first or second. It was second for you guys.
Yeah, we played each other the year before.
Yeah, I wasn't able to go the year before. Yeah. Yeah, it was my first LVO, so I didn't really know a ton of what to expect. Like, I heard from you guys, so it still kind of seemed as like this larger than life event. I had the opportunity to go to Las Vegas for the first time at the LVO Teams event back in September, and so I was, a little prepared for that. Yeah, LVO was like a fun experience. I think that there's this kind of a lot of stuff that left like a bad taste in people's mouth at the end of the event. I do think some people like over complained about how things went last year. I think some like people's initial, some people I guess overreacted a little bit is what I would say. But I understand, like, especially if you're coming from another country, spending that much money to travel to like the West Coast of the United States and like go to an event that you consider lackluster compared to maybe what you usually used to, I would maybe be a little bit upset as well. So yeah, I think for me, the major thing was the most fun I had at Vegas was spending time like with you guys and with our friends and meeting like people that I couldn't see around here. But since a lot of those people aren't going this year, I just kind of figured like cost wise, like I could go to like 3-4 tournaments up here with all the people I really love playing 40K with for the same cost, so that was kind of the choice there. Another big thing too is LVO last year was player place because like FLG was player place for their entire tournament circuit. And player place was fine, but it got very stale near the end of ninth. Like the whole, I lost defender role. This is going to be this game, and us coming up with suggestions on how to make player place better and just nothing being implemented like at all, really. And the whole thing too with like the whole terrain debacle, like them randomly adding in maps at the last minute, like the player packet didn't even have like how it's split, them overbooking and having to like throw you onto like shitty tables where you had to make up the terrain rules was like ridiculous. So just for the cost, like the quality of the event wasn't super like, it wasn't super tight in my opinion. And so knowing that, like, I didn't know if it was going to be player place again this year, and I didn't want to commit that cost up front to like flights and hotel rooms, which you should be booking like months out, without knowing whether or not the event will be player placed or GW. Because I'm kind of tired of playing on player place. I just want to focus on fixed layouts, So that's a bit of a ramble there, but that's kind of the main reason why I don't really want to go to LVO this year. Just for the cost, figure I could go to higher quality events.
Yeah, that is the big reason for me as well. Is I go to the events to compete and also to hang out with the people I really love. And spending that much money to go to one event when I could spend that same amount of money and go to either a higher quality event, so the competition is better, or B, more events, so I get to spend more time with more people. Those are both preferable. So, like, one of the best things about LVO last year was that, we all played some pretty serious names. Like, Tyler played Vanilla, Nick played Vic Vijay, and I played John Lennon. Like, all those games were super duper cool. But now that we've been to WTC, like, we can get those experiences in other places. And I would rather save money for a trip to Europe than spend, like, the same amount of money going to fucking Vegas, leaving it at the end and being like, I feel gross and slimy and I smell like cigarette smoke. Like, this is disgusting. Although you're probably going to smell like cigarette smoke going to Europe as well. But you get my point, right? Like, it's just the quality of the event is so much lower. So why would I spend the same money to go to a lower quality event? Like, once FLG steps up their game, I'll consider it again. But till then, I'm not going to any more of their events.
Yeah, absolutely. Fair enough. I am going to Vegas for basically two reasons. First off is that the cost is actually pretty negligible for me. Not because I'm like a gazillionaire, but because I caught Southwest flights at a really great deal. I spent like in total like $40 for my round trip airfare. I'm crashing on Ben Jurek's couch, so I'm not paying for a hotel. So I'm basically paying for an entry fee and food for the weekend. So I don't super mind the cost at all. And then the main reason that that's pulling me there is that I really want to lock in Best Infection GSC. Looking at the people who are attending, like I think Robin Roberts might be the only person who's like even close to catching me, who's actually going. I think Eric Tatt is going as well. So I suppose either of them could catch me. So I gotta go to defend my honor and pull this off. I don't even know if they're handing out Best Infection trophies this year. I would be really bummed if they're not. That'd be a massive letdown. But it'll feel good to know the numbers are there one way or the other. This has been a really good season for me with GSC, and I'd like to cap it off there.
If they don't make you a trophy, we will. How about that? We'll make one for you.
Colby got that funny machine on lock.
Yeah. Because, I mean, honestly,
Absolutely.
dude, we are on a podcast called Best Infection. It would be great to have someone else join the ranks of the Best Infection. So.
I mean, there might be two of us. I will remind y'all that last time I checked, Lucas is currently Best Infection Orcs, unless Nathan's going to catch him at what do you call it? Oh, in Vegas. So we'll see.
Is Naden going to Vegas?
Naden is going to Vegas. He's one of the only what I would call properly big names who will be in attendance. A couple others are going to be there, but like quite notably, I don't think there's a single Art of War member who is coming to compete that I know of, other than Matt Morrisoli is signed up, which is hilarious to me because he's by far the farthest Art of War player from.
Oh, Lennon isn't going.
No, Lennon's not going. Yeah.
Turns out people don't want to play player place. It's dog shit.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm just pulling up the rankings here to verify. And yeah, Lucas, you are currently sitting as Best Infection Orcs. Ben Jurek is not that far behind you, but I'm pretty sure he's playing Eldar or Guard. So I don't think he's catching you there. I don't think Rick Kincaid or Christian Reyes are coming. And anyone past that is like over 100 points behind you, and I don't think they could catch you without some crazy.
Boss!
So we might all have Best Infection Awards.
You
pretty funny.
Got nothing on me.
If you
Here's where Sean comes and steals it.
First in history to win the Best Infection Award and not attend LVO. I don't know if anyone else has done that or not. Maybe back in the day.
Naden doesn't have any registered events with Orcs. That's weird. But yeah, I guess he doesn't. Yeah, so he's certainly not going to catch you. You don't get 870 points for winning LVO. Sweet. We've been talking a lot about player placed, and it's worth mentioning that there have been some changes to how player placed works. I don't know if these changes were just made for LVO or if they're a little bit further back. So let's take a minute here to talk about what you can expect here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and just put up the actual player pack here. LVO share. Here we go. So you can see the terrain guidelines here. We're using player place terrain. They've got a video. Probably don't watch it, honestly. If I had to guess, it's
click on it right now.
Yeah, let's watch it live, dude.
Let's watch. I don't know if we can handle that. But yeah, this is the video that is over 2 years old. Yeah, it's still the one from Black Rabbit. So like the rules have changed multiple times since then. Don't watch that video. It's not helpful.
Watch our video
posting
right
the maps. They may adjust these maps. There's their little disclaimer that they can always change the terrain at any time without telling you.
Oh, at
Love
least
that.
it's there.
You have 10 minutes off clock to settle pregame actions and adjust terrain. Love that. So take all the time you want. The things to know about these maps here, we've got asterisks that denote, big ruins, basically. A, B, and C just tell you whose it is. There's player A, there's player B, and C means it's the centered piece that's not going anywhere. And then F means first floor blocking, because apparently there are non-first floor blocking ruins. Cool, dude. And we've got ruins, we've got crates, and we've got woods. I'm going to scroll past this disaster. We'll get to that later. But here, for example, is the famous Sisters table, the one that was debuted last year despite no one knowing about it, and then being used in all of the actually important finals games. And as you can see, nothing here needs that F tag because everything just actually has first floor or is blocked. We've got the famous Chaos table, where they've added the F to add first floor blocking to these ruins. That's actually a very reasonable thing. We got Gothic ruins, where they've the Cathedral table, as it's called, where they specified that the big Cathedral pieces, this is the same as last year, are first floor blocking. The other ones, it's up to you whether the windows are filled in or not. Who knows? Changes table to table. We got the Orc table with their first floor blocking L and that lovely center box that everyone loves so much. We've got two different versions of old champs. We've got the one that looks like this. As you can see, they've put the hill pieces on acrylics for some reason, because apparently it was unclear where the edge of the vertical hill was. Just to show you that they could create acrylic pieces to make tables if they wanted to.
It also,
and then we've got the other version here, which is
that would
the
also
same
let you
thing,
shoot
but with more hills.
over the hill, right? Like if your base was wholly within the
I mean,
plexiglass.
you can see how the thing lines up on the plexiglass. Like there's about a half inch on either side of it.
Dude, put a Doomstalker on there. Let's fucking go. I think he's still a little too
Doomstalker
wide.
would not be wholly within. Yeah, it might be more than a half inch in diameter in base.
Hey, you know what, dude? The acrylics, I have the right to change the dimension of them at any time. So you might get one that's wide enough for Doomstalker. You'll find out.
That's entirely valid. We're still playing Urban City in 2024 somehow. We got Field Base, which finally they changed Field Base. I appreciate this. Now you each get a good L, and the weird square thing is a center ruin.
Oh, it's not asymmetric and player placed? Oh.
No, it's not.
Let's go.
They introduced symmetry. Great.
Progress, baby.
And then we've got the one that I scrolled over, which is the cringiest thing you've ever seen, which is GW terrain, but player placed.
Base, dude.
So close to greatness, boys.
Layout 5.
So close.
I've played on this terrain too. It's really good.
Yeah. I will say it until I am blue in the face. FLG is really, really good at making physical products, which is a shockingly rare thing in the third-party marketplace for Warhammer 40k and other wargaming accessories. Yeah. Like, so much stuff is garbage. But the FLG tables, mats, MDF terrain sets, all fantastic.
Fantastic.
The table is the biggest thing.
The table is the best Warhammer table there is.
Yeah. So if any of y'all think that we are out here just hating on FLG because we think they're a stupid company that steals intellectual property and treats their players like cattle, it's not that. It's just that we don't like their events. They're an awesome company that makes great things. Man, I'm just talking out of both sides of my mouth all day today. Anyway, so those are the terrain pieces. Let's talk a little bit about how the player place works, because there have been some significant changes made that you should know about. This is all basically what you'd expect. They didn't include the sweeping engagement split until very recently. It was very funny watching people get confused when they didn't have an explanation for how to split sweeping engagement. That's been fixed. It's obviously all the things that you would expect. No more playing search and destroy, but it's actually Dawn of War terrain split for some reason. That was a funny time.
Thought that was okay.
All right. As per usual, you're going to roll off for attacker defender early, and the defender is going to get to pick their table side, and the players will separate the terrain as shown. It, again, does not specify who decides who gets which piece of asymmetrical terrain, but we generally assume it's the defender. Defender gets to drop the first piece of terrain, as before. And then, here's the big change. We talked about this as an idea years ago. It's finally been implemented. Which is that the attacker, after the defender, gets to place two pieces of terrain back-to-back instead of just one. I know we talked about this as an idea, but maybe not the end-all, be-all idea of how to make player place a little bit more balanced and make the defender roll off a little bit less silly. What do you guys think about this as a change now that it's been finally implemented?
Nice. Step in the right direction. Cannot complain about it. it's now going to make people actually think about whether or not they want to. Because, you know, the normal thing is there's 3 ruins or 3 pieces of terrain on each midfield. So do you want the prime one or do you want the 2 that come after the prime one? It's actually going to give you some kind of decision making, which should be the point of placing terrain in theory. So, nice. I'm a fan of it.
It's also interesting too because it like assuming the defender gets to pick the terrain pool if you're on an asymmetrical board, right? You get to pick which half of the asymmetrical like terrain split you get, and you get first drop, but in exchange your opponent gets 2 after that. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And for all the reasons we said before why this is a good idea, it's a good idea now.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we've got that change. Once that has been completed, starting with the defender, you got to alternate placing pieces. Everything has to be placed. That's old news. Terrain has to be 4 inches apart from each other and from the table edge. A couple of changes here. This got touted around. I don't know if this was in effect at LVO last year, but it was around that time that they added this idea that crates and woods can be up against the edge. They don't have to respect that 4-inch border. You can slam them all the way up, which leads to some really interesting... sorry?
I think they came out right after LVO last year.
Yeah. I think this is a really fun and interesting addition. It makes the boards a lot more diverse and makes crates and crates especially. Woods are absolutely useless in 10th edition, but it makes crates a much more interesting terrain piece than they are otherwise. So that's very exciting. Here's the next change. They've changed the asterisks from 6 inches apart to 5 inches apart, which at that point, like, why do they have to be 5 apart? It feels it's such a small change that I feel like you're not gonna notice. What do you guys think about this?
I mean, I sort of get what they were oh god, stop it. I think I get what they were going for, which is that, you know, some people were complaining that the 6-inch apart thing led to scenarios where, like, you know, pieces of terrain couldn't get placed, and then you had that awkward kind of look with your opponent after all the pieces except for one have been placed, and you're like, well, I don't have space for this, so maybe that 1 inch is supposed to like leave enough room that you can theoretically fit everything, but I think those scenarios are still going to arise. I don't think it really does much. Just make all the 4 inches apart. Come on, it's not that complicated.
Yeah. Cool. So we got that change. This is my favorite part of the entire packet. I'm gonna Nick, could you read this verbatim for us actually, so that we don't have any confusion about what this says?
The highlighted part?
Yeah, the note here.
All right. Note, this is about the terrain marked with an asterisk having to be at least 5 inches from another piece of terrain marked with an asterisk. There is a note that in the instance one or more players has a model that has a footprint more than 5 inches in diameter, so like a soul grinder, in their narrowest measurement, that player can adjust their terrain half as needed to allow them to be able to traverse the board. Your opponent can still follow normal terrain placement guidelines on their half of the table. Call a judge for assistance as needed.
Lucas, you want to paraphrase that for us?
If you have one soul grinder in the list, deploy terrain wherever the fuck you want.
No.
All right, I slammed out. I slammed down my terrain. I slammed down my terrain. Oh, my soul grinder can't fit between any of these pieces.
That's not. I don't even think it means like chronologically after you've set everything up. My read on this is that it literally says if you have a big model, you're allowed to place your terrain far enough apart that it can move. It doesn't change the rules at all. It just says, hey, don't be an idiot and don't move block yourself. You're allowed to not move block yourself. What is happening here?
I think this is referring to chronologically. That player can adjust their terrain half. So assuming, I think kind of intuitively that says, like, after your terrain is down, you can adjust it your half to traverse the board. Otherwise, like, how are you adjusting it? How are you adjusting it before the terrain is down?
I think it's saying if you made a mistake, right?
Yeah.
Like, say you slam something too close, like what Lucas says, you get to your last piece of terrain, and you're like, oh, by placing this piece of terrain, my Soul Grinder is not going to be able to move across the board. This is saying you are now allowed to push those pieces so that they're wide enough that the Soul Grinder can walk through. I think is what it's saying. But I think it's also saying go call a judge because now you're messing everything up.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I agree with Lucas. Like, yeah.
I'd rather
Now,
these dumb provisions not even be in here, right? Like, I'd rather we honestly take there's the GW approach, which is like, you can run them, but they won't be able to fit in some cases. I'd prefer if we just were WTC about it and went like, yeah, no, banned. You can't run a Town R. You can't have your big, dumb, stupid model. And if it doesn't walk around, bummer, you're not allowed to play it anyway.
I mean, I quite like the approach of, yeah, bring it, cool, it's not going anywhere. Tough frock. These are the layouts.
Yeah.
But
those are fun, but like a lot of those like giant resin or giant like fantasy models that got ported over to 40K, it's like those are there because the model, like they made the rules because the models exist, but like they don't really have a place in modern terrain layouts. Go play them in Crusade, go play them in your Apocalypse games, have fun with them. Don't go crying to the judge when you can't move your Seraptic Construct around, and have them put a note in the player pack so one person can play their 2 Seraptic Constructs and go 2/4,
Yeah, all right. Continuing down, the Orc and field-based terrain sets have a center building, and this has been a thing for a while, and the way it used to work was, if you were the defender, your first move was to move the center piece off of the center chip. You got to pick the direction, and that was your first move. So this was one of the only instances where you might want to be the attacker, because moving the center piece might not be as good as placing the first piece on the left or right objectives. They've changed this in a bizarre way because, I mean, it makes sense had to change because now that attacker is so much better because you get to place 2 pieces, it'd really suck if you'd be like, all right, my only placement is shoving this thing to the left or to the right. You now get to take both both of the other midfield objectives. So to compensate, you now just roll a die, and on a 1 under 3 it goes one way, on a 4 up it goes the other way, and then the defender places their first piece. So basically, it means that there's like the benefits of being an attacker now on the Orc and field base is radically diminished because the center is already going to be defined by the big piece. The defender is going to then get to pick their close or your close objective to mess with, and you're just going to get stuck with the other one. So I guess you get to place a piece that they can't interact with anyway first, which is, it's whatever. Center pieces are a bad idea if you're going to try to do player placed. I don't like this at all, but I think that this is, I guess, a better solution. I don't know. It's kind of funny that they're very clear that it's the defender that has to move the terrain piece, despite the fact that like they're not deciding anything, we're just flipping a coin. But I don't need to make fun of this player pack anymore. This seems like a reasonable change. I doubt you'll have any comments on this, but feel free. Cool. All right. The rock walls have acrylic bases. The rock walls are now breachable. That's great. I think that's a really good change. I kind of enjoyed the rock walls being a not breachable thing in the past, but I think that making them breachable probably makes them a lot more playable for a lot of people. Probably a good change. The funny thing, though, is they're still like over 2 inches thick, so you can't draw coherency across them, which I find incredibly irksome. But if you get all the way across, you're good to go. And cargo containers get to be on top of each other in a tangent configuration flat on the table or placed as 2 separate pieces. You still can't stand them up vertically anymore. Sorry, guys. We've got one more interesting change here that you have to know about. Lucas, can you read off this this really important thing that is, for some reason, not even bolded or anything?
The magic boxes or the terrain may be placed?
The terrain may be placed.
Terrain may be placed onto a 40 millimeter objective circle, but vertical ruin walls must remain 1 inch away from the 40 millimeter circle. Okay.
What?
Yeah, what? I guess this is to allow people to stand on the chip?
Yeah,
What?
I feel like the first half of this change feels like, oh, hey guys, we know that some of our terrain pieces have pretty fat lips that can make it really hard to actually make an objective safe to stand on from behind a wall. So now you can do that. It doesn't matter if the lip is really thick. You can put it on top of the chip. You get a little bit of extra room there. Extra 20 millimeters basically. It's almost an inch. You can stand behind the wall, but the vertical ruined walls have to be an inch from the chip is weird and random and counter to that, and it completely nullifies those big thick foam walls as a functional piece because, as I mentioned, they're over 2 inches thick. So if you try to put them on a mat that's a 40 millimeter circle and they're an inch back from that, then you'd have to stand 2 inches back from that inch, so more than 3 inches from the 40 millimeter circle, which is the whole of the objective. So I don't understand how you're supposed to use those to hold objectives anymore.
I guess it's just in your home field. Like in your home field, it still works, but it definitely doesn't work in the midboard.
Yeah. So like if we scroll back up to the LVO champs, the ones that have it, like I guess you're supposed to put your one mega ruin on a midfield objective and hope that its base happens to be sized in a very specific way that'll allow you to hold the objective from behind it. I guess. I just hope I don't have to plan any of this nonsense, because that's disturbing.
You're gonna get the Warhammer Fantasy Table, dude. That is not pictured here.
Is that the one that Innis played on last year?
Innis had to play on
the one with the giant hangar,
Industrial
right?
City. No, not the giant hangar. But yeah,
I don't see that hangar anywhere in this packet, right?
No, they have removed it from the packet, and it definitely won't be there unless they have more people show up than
one of the lower table guys.
I do not anticipate happening this year.
That was the funniest thing, dude. I told you guys about that story last year, right, where I went to go use the restroom, and I came back, and this guy's Kairos was wobbling on the 2 balance beams on top, and I'm like, don't think that's legal, but this is round 6, so let's go, man.
Forgot about that.
That was funny.
And he was telling me I had to roll a 8-inch charge for my Zerkers to get up there and fight Kairos. I was like, all right, dude.
Sure,
Sounds
dude.
good.
Go get him.
Good times.
All right, and the last thing here is there are no magic boxes, which is... I feel like this has very similar energy to GW taking away the devastating wounds from the Immortals, which is like, oh no, don't do the thing. The thing was bad for reasons that we can't quite comprehend some number of years ago, so we need to overreact if anyone says the word magic box. You can't stand somewhere where you can't be shot from any angles. Cool. All right. Let's talk about the missions. Missions are a thing we've talked about a lot on this show. Let's see how LVO did for theirs. So round 1, we've got priority targets, Chilling Reign, Crucible of Battle. I know we have some mixed feelings about priority targets, but that seems like a pretty straightforward W.
Could be worse.
Yeah. I would encourage y'all to just be off mute because we're going to make quick comments here. I don't need a lot here. Round 2, we're throwing that out the fucking window, playing the Ritual, Chilling Reign, Hammer, and Anvil. Have either of y'all ever played the Ritual on Hammer and Anvil?
It seems kind of tight.
It seems, more congested than your plane ride home after the Christmas time travel.
I'm very excited to play the Ritual on player place terrain. That's going to be interesting.
If only they added scrambler fields, dude.
If only.
Could you imagine just a zone in the midfield you couldn't deep strike in, Tyler?
We'll see. All right. Round 3, we're playing a classic right out of the Leviathan pack. We're playing Scorched Earth, Chilling Reign, Dawn of War. That's...
Respect. Love that mission. Love me some Dawn of War.
So that's that. And then moving into day 2.
I can get to your DZ in one movement phase.
He can indeed. I hope y'all aren't done with Hammer and Anvil yet, because we're playing Sights of Power, Chilling Reign, Hammer and Anvil. So no scrambler fields here, just good old-fashioned Sights,
Second
Hammer.
best. This is
Nice. Take and hold exists. Final ground exists. Please.
Sights of Power.
small
man.
comment here, but Lucas and I we talked about this a lot lately. Honestly, dude, Scorched Earth Sights, not bad missions. Just Dawn and Hammer, terrible deployments for them.
Yep.
That's it.
Absolutely.
Change the deployment. The primary's sick. Put it on a what, Crucible or Sweeping, and it's like those missions are actually pretty sick.
Yes.
Yeah. God, so
Sorry,
I'm
continue.
especially confused because at LVO historically, all of the tables are bumper to bumper, right? Like they're all there's
so
no
why are
there's
they
no
making you
walking
play
around the table.
Hammer and
So
Anvil
why are we
twice
playing Hammer and Anvil
for the
twice?
first
Yeah.
4 rounds?
Because fuck you, that's why.
So Crucible, Hammer, Dawn, Hammer, and then round 5, Supply Drop, Chilling Reign, Search and Destroy.
Okay. That is also a mission in the JW packet. It's not a terrible one.
I think that Search and Destroy is a really, really, like, conceptually a terrible deployment zone type for supply drop.
This is the
because-
third one. Yeah. This is the third good primary mission. Terrible deployment type to be given to
because
it.
it's the only one with asymmetric objective, or especially asymmetric objectives. Like the Crucible and Sweeping are a little bit asymmetric, but supply drop is incredibly asymmetric. And to be like, cool, all you have to do is take your close objective turn 5 and you win the game.
Well, I agree.
Decision.
Well, definitely agree with you guys. I feel like we can't blame them for this though, because these are the missions
out of the
straight
loop.
out of BW's
Yeah.
packet. But yeah,
This
those
is
issues
more,
exist as we've discussed
more like
in our
a-
missions episode.
Yeah.
Here's
And
the
then
three
for
that
round
we are like,
yeah.
oh.
And for round 6, we're playing Priority Targets, Hidden Supplies, Search and Destroy.
There's gonna be some ties on that motherfucking mission. I'll tell you what.
We are playing Priority Targets twice in the 6 rounds. We are playing
and
Search and
this
Destroy
is the
twice.
6th objective one.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you're mega close. Okay. And people are going to be tired.
Yep.
I'm ready for
get 'em.
some looks like a 1-hundo tie because we stood still for 3 turns.
The Army
I believe
Esports
it.
special. Who said that?
75.
Who would
75
say that?
Nebraska.
Who would slander the Army like that?
All right. Top 16 cut. What's that?
Yeah,
one?
so the Shadow Round, they're announcing the Shadow Round mission in advance, which I gotta say I really appreciate. Like, the fact that the Shadow Round was just, we'll figure out when we get there in the past, very silly. So this is good. We're doing Take and Hold, Chilling Reign, Search and Destroy. So
Nice.
if you make top 16, you're playing 3 straight Search and Destroys.
Not so nice.
Stop it! Sweeping Engagement is not present.
Sounds
anywhere.
like World Leader time, dude.
God.
Chain Blade. Powers
Prio's
up.
Ritual Scorched, Sight, Supply Drop, Take and Hold. The only Take and Hold is in the Shadow Round.
Bruh.
If you do not make top 16, you will not play the best mission. Fun. Okay. And then moving on to, the most important, the final day, day 3, the most competitively balanced missions they could come up with for the coup de grace of Warhammer 40,000. We're starting off with Purge the Foe, Chilling Reign, Crucible of Battle.
The semifinals is player playing.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. Shut up. We're getting there. We're getting there. Spoilers. Purge the Foe. My personal least favorite, but I think that's a very reasonable thing to put. I don't think it's the best place to put it, but that's cool. Crucible's great.
Yeah.
Chilling, fine. Yeah,
This
I
is
think
a
I think
fine
it's totally
mission
reasonable.
that maybe could have been in one of the first 6 rounds.
Yep. Honestly, I'm hyped to not have to play Purge if I don't make day 3. That sounds great to me.
Fair enough.
Cool. And then the semifinals, the round of 4. What do we got, Lucas?
We've got Take and Hold, Chosen Battlefield, and Dawn of War.
Nick, you
Why?
want to translate for that for everyone at home?
What
Why,
happens
though?
first? The terrain player placed or the objectives player placed?
Great question. Surely the objectives.
I
because
mean,
you know what side you have when you do your player placed terrain, and you don't know what side you have when you do your player placed objectives.
Yes. Yeah.
you're gonna be placing objectives randomly in DZs and
On an
midfield
open table.
on a blank table, not knowing
I
which
guess I'll
side
put
you'll
one
get,
over here. We'll see what
and
happens.
also not knowing how your opponent's gonna deploy the terrain.
This is cancer. Holy
Hey,
shit.
don't worry, you get 10 minutes to do it beforehand.
Oh, thank God, dude.
Whew. I fully anticipate someone is going to make it to this, and it's LVO. They're going to be tired as hell, and they're going to win the defender role, so they're going to get to place first. They're going to bet the game on. Wait, no. They're going to win the who places objectives first. They're going to make a castle of front of the DZ, front back of no man's land with their 3 objectives. They're going to win that side, and they're going to build a castle on their 3 objectives that are all like 9 inches apart or whatever. And that's going to be the whole game.
You're playing Dawn of War. You could just do that, and if you don't win that side, you just run at them and take their base from them.
Yep.
Right? Like if you're playing a pressure army.
Mm-hmm.
Like
100%.
if the whole primary is sit in this castle, I can't back up or go either way because it's Dawn of War.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You can do the Steve Trimble classic, which is I'm putting 3 here if there's a battlefield. I either get the side and hold it down, or I don't get the side and I come over and take it from you.
Amazing.
All right.
All I'm saying, dude,
And
looks like a good day to be red,
yeah.
Or
So
green.
we'll talk about what's looking good in the meta in a minute. And for the finals, we have Lucas's favorite mission of all time. What's it going to be, Lucas?
Finally, a good one. Vital Ground, Chilling Ring, Crucible of Battle. Jesus fucking Christ. We've got, so how many? There's 10 missions in this packet?
Yep.
We have 0
And there
sweeping
are
engagement.
2, I would say 2 of these are great missions. That being
Which are, what, rounds 1 and 10?
round, no, the Shadow Round
The Shadow
10.
Round and round 10.
Yeah, I'd say Take and Hold, Search and Destroy, and Vital Ground, Crucible Battle are the only ones I'd be excited to play in this packet. The rest of them are like, this is fine, or what the fuck is this shit?
So remember I was
Pardon
saying,
my
like 2 weeks
French.
ago how I wanted the missions to change.
I mean, you can make some better ones than this by just combining Take and Hold / Vital Ground / I don't know, Scorched Earth with any of the diagonals. All 6 of those combinations are fantastic, but apparently that's too creative for
I
people.
love how I was so excited that they included how to split the table up for Crucible of Battle final, or for Sweeping Engagement finally, and then just didn't put it in the pack. Utterly brilliant.
Oh, that's
right.
hilarious.
So,
Okay.
with these missions in mind, what do we think is going to be particularly effective in Vegas this year? I know there's been some talk about something looking red. What are we thinking?
World leaders.
Well, I mean, World Leaders will definitely be good on that day too, with 3 Search and Destroys. But there's also going to be some counterplay to that, like armies like World Leaders and Orcs, which tend to bully the opponent and run out of steam by turn 4, really hate priority targets. I've bitched about this endlessly. Anytime somebody messages that to Anthony, he goes on a rant about how terrible that mission is because he plays World Leaders. Round 1 is priority targets, and round 6 is priority targets. You're going to have to win that mission twice if you're playing Orcs and World Leaders. So I'm not saying it's not pressure friendly, but I'm saying it's not just that. It's not that
What
easy to
about-
just diagnose it as run forward good.
Our favorite friends in the Land Raider, the Righteous Crusaders.
Those guys
Black
are
Templars.
probably be big chillin'. I mean, they tend to be tough, so they stick around for priority targets.
Tough pressure, and you can like dabble into like even 4 units of Crusaders to just have stuff all over the board.
Good on the Ritual, good on Dawn of War. Tend to have a lot of characters for Sites of Power. Good on Search and Destroy. Yeah, something like Black Templars would definitely work pretty well.
That Vanguard list is gonna probably be pretty good too. The Ultramarines Vanguard.
Yeah, definitely. Like Space Marines are definitely. This is kind of a brawler type pack where it's also you're kind of incentivized for playing keep away a little bit because of those priority targets. and purge the foe as well. Space Marines don't tend to have a ton of units, so Space Marines are looking pretty good in this packet, I'd say.
Yeah.
How do you think CK would do in this packet, especially with like the ability to place, all the terrain on your side?
Oh man, it's honestly been so long since I've played player placed with CK. I'm not like super familiar, but if I just had to take a guess from what I can see, I feel like it's a pretty strong packet. That being said, Search and Destroy is my least favorite deployment type of CK. I really like playing that army a little bit slower, and the benefit of being able to run carnivores at people early by being close to them is usually offset by the fact that your brigands have a lot less time to operate. So yeah. I think it's a perfectly fine CK pack with a little bit of weakness on day 2.
Yeah,
I think Votan could do really well in this pack too.
I think so. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, there's the downside of like pairing something like World Eaters on like a Search and Destroy mission type. Especially round 5 is going to be the scary one for Votan, I think. Round 3 could as well, but yeah, supply drop, Search and Destroy, little spooky, especially like what if they win Defender and then slam an L down on the middle objective?
I think unless the opponent is also very aggressive, Search and Destroy is a great deployment type for Votan though, because your scout moves are just so devastating.
Yeah, that's the thing though, is I'm saying is if you don't pair into someone who's going to be that aggressive into you, you can flip the switch on them. Yeah, like charge them in their DZ turn 1 with Zerkers.
So, and I feel like also Priority Targets is a pretty good mission for Votan, because all you need is like a couple little remnant units to stick around, and all of a sudden you get a ton of primaries.
Like 6 units left alive at the end of the game. Yeah. So like that appearing twice in the 6 missions is very good for them.
How are we feeling about the meta top dogs right now, as it were, with the Eldar and the CSM? Between player place being pretty darn sparse as a general rule of thumb, but safe where it needs to be, and this mission pack, this seems like well, I don't know. How do you feel like Eldar? Let's start with. How do we feel like they're going to fare in this?
I feel like Eldar generally will be fine. The Night Spinners are a long enough range. I think they're 48, where you can mostly just make a castle in your backfield. Even if the ruins are a little bit less dense than GW, where you can just hide the 3 of them in the backboard, and then make a nice little hiding place for your Wraith Guard or whatnot, your Aspect Warriors to hide in the midfield while they go and fuck around and abuse Phantasm. Mm-hmm. So I think the Eldar will do fine on here. CSM, I mean, obviously they have the Nurgle strat to guard themselves, but CSM tend to have a lot of units, and not all of them can use the Nurgle strat. So I think they will do fine. I think things like Accursed Cultists are going to be a lot worse on these boards. Maybe that's not true. I feel like they just take up so much hiding space that you'd rather use Forge Fiends or Rhinos in. That I think they're going to be a little bit worse.
Seems fantastic.
Forge Fiends are going to be disgusting. I think every CSM player should probably try to bring a Nurgle Forge Fiend, because that guy is going to sit at an angle and obliterate. But yeah, I think Rhinos and Forge Fiends are going to be strong, and maybe one Accursed Brick to be annoying. I still think one Nurgle Accursed Brick just to sit on objectives and cleanse for the all time is pretty sick. So I think both those armies are not too affected by the terrain negatively anyway.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And if you're like playing like the Avatar of Cain, like being able to make a channel for him to go through is super nice. Sights of Power is great to see for him on the mission packet. Search and Destroy as well. So yeah, I think there's like a good reason why those 2 armies do so well, is that they're just good armies regardless of terrain format, and you can make lists that work on any terrain format, I think. I actually kind of think Death Guard might be a little good on this packet too. Maybe I'm a little weird here, but like Death Guard are an army that I think gets really good with player place, because like one of their big weaknesses is like having to walk around through shooting lanes. So if you get to like make a safe castle in your DZ, and they have like everything's infantry, so you can do the whole like sit in the midfield and just like run out and bash people. Ritual Hammer and Anvil seems great, because like you're channeled into this small box, so they don't have to run around and chase you really. Sights of Power, Death Guard are famously good at Sights of Power, because they have like, big bricks of guys that want to sit midfield with tons of characters. Yeah, I do think Prios is going to be a little tough, because if the opponent wants to like tie you, like you have to get really aggro and go hit them, which is kind of hard for Death Guard. So yeah, I'd
I
be
think
interested to
so
see
too.
if it.
I think Death Guard are underexplored. I wish their play base was a little bit more avid at chasing the meta, because I feel like the difference between a 3-2 Death Guard or a 4-1 Death Guard list and someone who's really taking Death Guard super seriously is pretty wide, unfortunately. So
Yeah.
when I think of like Death Guard players at events, I don't think of people who are taking the best lists, unfortunately. So it'd be cool to see Death Guard be doing really well, because they're a sick faction. Like, no pun intended.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm a fan of that.
See-
I'm trying to think of other factions that might be good. Here's a weird
Necron's
one.
doing well.
What about Custodes? I think their little small bricks can kind of jump from objective to objective, and if you can kind of win a couple of those attacker roll-offs, then all of a sudden you get to sit on 2 objectives completely safely. That'd be pretty good.
Yeah.
Also, with a lot of search and destroy, things like supply drop, priority targets, your army tends to stick around when you play Custodes. Like, tend to score primary pretty well.
Yeah, I see it.
I think
My only concern for Custodes is with the way that player placed works with the objectives. There's always a large amount of objective that is available for some bullshit high OC unit to run onto if you want to be behind the wall.
That's fair.
And I don't think of Custodes as an army that can deal with that very well, other than by coming out to clear it. So I'm curious to see how that shakes out for them long term, and what they can do to mitigate that, because that's certainly my plan at Custodes. It's guardsmen on objectives and Bomba's right behind.
It really depends, right? Because it depends how much OC your unit has. Because 5 custodians and a character on an objective is 18 OC. So like you'll need a 10-man squad of dudes with OC2 to take that from them. So it'll be interesting for sure. How do you feel about GSC on these missions, Tyler?
I'm intrigued.
I think there's
We're gonna have to.
Go ahead. Sorry.
We're gonna have to play that round 2 mission, like probably on Tuesday,
Sure.
because I am very intrigued, to say the least. There's a lot of stuff here that does not offer primary for backfields, or at least mitigates it, between ritual and supply drop and sites of power. That's something that GSC generally really likes, because bullying you off of midfield objectives is what we do best. Obviously, we love the ritual, or I do right now, because of all the guard nonsense. So spawning objectives is easy, holding objectives is easy. The search and destroy is a little concerning. Not having to play purge feels great, but I don't generally love getting rushed that hard. But with aberrants and Taroks in the list, like, getting rushed is not what it used to be. So I think overall I feel pretty good. This is not a perfect mission pack for me by any stretch of the imagination, but especially pushing Purge the Foe to day 3, I'm feeling like I could be doing a lot worse for GSC. I don't know what you think about it.
I think that's about where I have it as well. There's definitely like 1 or 2 that are either unknowns or a little sketchy. But as a whole, like, GSC tends to like things like priority targets, because although their action ability got worse, just being able to respawn units means that, and 3H Deep Strike means that you can go take late game primary, which beating them on primary is one of the ways to beat GSC, so that's a good GSC mission. Sites of Power, obviously, as well. Like, you have a lot of characters. Not as good without the Bomb Lady, but still probably pretty good.
Biophagus still puts in work.
That's true. Yep.
Because, yeah, with player place terrain, there's going to be a lot of missions where the aberrants are deploying on the center objective behind a wall if I'm the defender, and just sitting there for the whole game, safe. You want to come deal with them? I don't think so. So we'll see what that's like.
Yeah, it'll be cool.
But yeah, I'm excited. Sweet.
I want to see 5 Catan on Search and Destroy, dude. I want to turn the stream on and just see 5 Catan T-posing in the middle of supply drop, dude.
It's an option. Sweet. So
they better choose the right objective, because they're not making their way onto a different one.
I don't know, man. They can
Hypercrypt.
They're able to 3-inch Deep Strike now. That was one of the FAQ frequently asked questions, because precise stratagem says if a unit is arriving via Deep Strike this turn, you can 1 CP 3-inch Deep Strike it, or if it is arriving via the I don't know,
hyperphasing,
Legion ability. Yeah, hyperphasing
which
ability.
is how you pick
It's not an
units up.
ability. Hyperphasing is the ability that picks them up. There's no hyperphasing ability that makes them arrive. Obviously, the FAQ clears up like this is what we meant if they were put into strat reserves via hyperphasing. Yes, you can 3-inch deep strike them even though they don't have deep strike. So, the Nightbringer can appear next to you and stare at you.
Yeah, we'll see about that. I'm very curious to see what comes of some of this nonsense. But yeah, cool. I'll take that as a transition to run down what exactly it is that I have decided to take to the Las Vegas Open. I know I've talked about a couple different variations of GSC with guard lists in the past, but it's worth knowing what I'll be running here. And if you're playing GSC, it's not too late to copy my list because it's the best one. I don't know that to be the case. I do have credentials that say I'm pretty good at GSC, but we'll see if I end up going 2 and 4. This take on GSC is trying to shore up a couple of the major shortfalls of the faction, particularly that our stuff is too expensive and we do not have enough things. And in particular, we do not have enough ways to get on objectives without double 3-inch deep strike. So we're going to solve that with dudes in boxes. The problem is 10 neophytes in a Goliath truck is like 200 points. So that's not how we're going to do it. Let me get you the exact numbers on that to make sure I'm not misquoting horribly here. Because, yeah, 10 neophytes is 90 points, and a Goliath truck is 110 points. It is 200 points on the nose to take 10 idiots in a truck for GSC. Screw that. So instead, we're going to take 10 idiots in a truck from our friends and faithful companions, the Astra Militarum, for whom it costs a much more reasonable number of points.
The Brood Brothers.
Absolutely.
Are brooding.
They are indeed. So, by contrast, a squad of 10 Catachan jungle fighters in a Taurox. The Taurox is 65. The Taurox is 65. The Catachans are 55. So we're looking at a comfy 120 instead of 200 as an effective way to put nonsense around the table. So we're going to take some of that. So, and the other thing we wanted to do here is stop giving up Assassinate like it's going out of style. With player placed, fixed is stonks. This thing I don't think we talked about enough. Because you can place terrain in such a way to get homers safely all the time, whether you're holding that center objective or not. So expect to see people taking fixed more than you might ordinarily, because you always have good homer spots. So you don't want to give up a fixed. Don't give up Bring It Down. Don't give up Assassinate. It's just a bad idea. So to prevent from giving up Assassinate, I'm only taking 4 characters. And those 4 characters are a Biophagus with Alien Cunning. Excuse me, getting hiccupy over here. And, of course, 3 Primuses because they're mandatory. Battle line, we got 2 squads of Neophytes, 2 squads of Acolytes with all the fixins, and then we've got 10 Aberrants, of course, because I love my Aberrants, and a funny Mortar Car, who probably should have a spotter, but I'm sticking with the Survey Augur because I don't want to futz with the model, and I love my Survey Augur and Greed. And then we've got our guard detachment, 3 units of Catachans, 1 unit of Cadians with 4 Taurox, all the bells and whistles on the Catachans and Cadians, 2 Flamers, Voxcasters, and all that sort of riffraff.
Oh, the Voxcaster value, baby.
Did you prime those, by the way? I didn't see those get around here. I tried to leave them in the tray for you.
The Voxcasters?
Yeah, they were loose.
I haven't seen them.
Weird. Okay. Well, I'll have to paint those separately then. Got to stick them on the backs of my some of my Catachans.
Do they do anything?
Yeah, they give you 5-up CP regen when you spend on the unit.
Oh, weird. Okay. I thought they were just for orders.
No, not at all. They don't do that at all. But yeah, given that those units are very liable to get auto-passed or they do have the grenades keyword, like... Those are both pretty useful possibilities, especially in an army that doesn't have a bunch of CP generation other than playing tactical. So,
Do
Nice little
refunds
bit of
count
depth.
against your like gain 1 per turn?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So we can get it from tactical. We can get it from refunding off the aberrants via. We can get it off of refunding off the guard squads via the Voxcaster. And then we can obviously get one on a 4-up from neophytes on an objective. But in this list, if there are neophytes on an objective in my command phase, something's probably gone terribly wrong.
Yeah. That's definitely. I mean, I like the new thing. I love this list, by the way. I think it's super sick. But that's one thing about it is the GST components are super slim. It's basically just like 2 bomb squads, 2 neophyte squads, and the 10 aberrants, which is pretty cool. It really maximizes the Primus, which is like probably the best data sheet. I don't think GSC is nearly as good without him, so I think he's probably the best data sheet in the GSC index.
Oh, comfortably, yeah.
So, and being able to take 2 of each of the firepower units means, depending on your opponent, you can swap to favor the neophytes or acolytes, depending on what you need. If you really need brick clearing, then you can put the Primus with the acolytes. Otherwise, just put them with the neophytes to be safer. I think it's really cool, like the way it's constructed. You can cut out a bunch of those units that were just kind of sitting around doing nothing without a Primus. Like 20 neophytes without a Primus kind of sucks.
Yeah, they're just 20 bodies without a Primus, which I love having, but like, man, is that still 180 points for 20 bodies that can 3-inch deep strike.
Yeah.
I really wish that they would fold Brood Brothers into the GSC Codex. This is like my weird wish for the GSC Codex in the spring, is to fold Brood Brothers in as a unit so I can have 20 idiots that 3-inch deep strike that don't have any stupid guns that I'm paying out the tail end for. If I could have 110, maybe 120 point unit of 20 dudes that did that and didn't have to pay for seismic cannons, I would love that. I think that'd be really cool and very dynamic, and make Brood Brothers feel like part of the army instead of just being a weird ally that we can kind of take. But we'll see what happens there. So that's the army we're taking here. Practice is really important. If you're anything like us, you have not been playing on player place basically at all. Do not think that you can just walk up and do player placed. It's not gonna go well. It is a skill that requires some practice, not a ton of practice. Like, you'll figure it out pretty quickly, but definitely you take the time to work through it. If you have access to FLG sets, either at home or at a friend's house or at your local gaming store, I know that Orc Set at least is also available on Tabletop Simulator. Get familiar with as many sets as you can. You really don't want to go be surprised that the cathedral ruins on the bottom floor are open on the squares, and then not be able to see something when your opponent took all the ones that had solid windows. So be ready for that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's Vegas, baby.
Seems good.
That's showbiz, baby.
Sweet. Well, if you're gonna be in Vegas, I'm not hard to find. I'm not gonna shave to a term mustache because like the homies aren't coming. But I got like a couple feet of hair and a pretty big beard right now.
I'll shave to a mustache if you do, dude. Come on.
I'd rather do that for Gongai, honestly.
True. Actually, I have no say in this.
You need to grow a mustache.
No thanks.
Whatever the case, I'm pretty easy to find. I'm probably playing GSC down to the end of the clock. I'm play on a clock. Please, for the love of God, be playing down to the end of my clock. Screaming probably. So you'll find me. Come say hi. I've got TNG stickers. Love to give away the merch. It's a lot of fun. And love to meet y'all. Hope you're having a good time in Vegas. Better than these fools sitting on their hands at home in the snow. Hopefully
we'll be watching you, dude.
Not snow. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that means that we should plug a couple of things. First and foremost, and probably most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, people are not yet aware of the Cascade Clash. Lucas, tell us a little about the Cascade Clash and what's going to be going down in March in the Pacific Northwest, because it is a much bigger deal than I feel like the internet is aware of at the moment.
Sure. So Cascade Clash is going to be a major tournament that's going to be held in Bellingham. Majors are really big for the PNW. We don't have that many of them. So the guys at Aegis Games are going to be putting this on. They're a fantastic group. and I am really excited for this event. I think it's the first of its kind put on by them. They've done GTs in the past, but given the quality of those tournaments, I am all confidence in the world that Cascade Clash is going to smash. So it's in Bellingham. I think either the last weekend or second to last weekend of March. And I think they're aiming
no. First weekend. It's March 8th.
And the Rosehammer is at the end.
Yeah.
That's right. So it'll be at the very beginning of March, and then second weekend in March, and come to that because it's going to be sick. And I think hopefully, if all the tickets sell out, it's going to be 150 people. So
yeah, there are 150 slots, 3 days, 8 rounds. It's going to be GW terrain, which is fantastic. Missions straight out of the Levy Pack, nothing absolutely crazy. And there's a whole bunch of different awards getting handed out, which are going to be a lot of fun. They're doing like best in your bracket, essentially, highest ranked with each record, stuff like that.
If I recall correctly, it's also going to be a little bit of a convention type thing, right? Like it's not just going to be a Warhammer tournament. There's going to be a lot of other event like gaming nerd type shit going on.
There's a whole bunch of stuff going on. There's going to be Magic, I think. There might be some AOS or some X-Wing or something. I don't remember the details of that stuff because I'm really just here for the Warhammer. But definitely check it out. Cascade Clash, again, is the name there. The 40K major. It's in BCP already. You can buy yourself a ticket. I believe all three. Nick, you're going to be there, right?
Yes.
Sweet. Then...
Ideally, yeah. Unfortunately, with it being on Friday, I still have to negotiate getting that time off work.
Fantastic.
My goal is to be
hopefully all three of us are going to be there. It's going to be a ball and a biscuit. You're not going to want to miss it. It's like LVO, but better. That's the tagline. So get real excited for that one. In addition to that, we've got Rosehammer coming up at the end of the month if you're local to Portland. Not as big of an event, but still going to be a big GT down at the Doubletree by Hilton. So it's not in the ball this time. Colton puts on a real good event. That's going to be a lot of fun, and it's local Portland. Woo! It's going to be great. I think Gongai is basically sold out at this point, so if you don't know about that, it's our local GT. I wouldn't worry too much about it. Check out the rest of the network, see what's going on. We got a whole bunch of bit reps that went up on YouTube recently. We've got myself on Endless Swarm versus Lucas on CSM, and Lucas has done a handful of these with some of our buddies around. He's got you got Chaos Knights versus Death Guard coming out soon. That one's not out yet, but you recently put up what were the ones you did? You did.
So I played Orcs versus Harry's Firestorm, as well as my Chaos Knights versus Enrique's Necrons. And then I think I have another game with Enrique from a little further back as well. So there's 3 or 4 Lucas games if you're interested in Orcs or Necrons to feast your eyes upon.
Yeah, so some very cool stuff there. Go ahead and check all of that.
Oh, Nick and I played Votan Orcs. That was a super close game and was a great one.
So you should watch that. Mega fun. Yeah.
Definitely check that one out. It's a good one.
Now that I've changed my list, Nick, by the way, we need to play that matchup again.
Yeah, I'm done, man.
You're not ready for the funny trike, bro. You know how many attacks this man has?
4.
Guess. 4. Damn it. You guessed right.
I knew. 4 at 7/2/2?
It's 10/2/2. He's strong, dude. He's a war boss.
Is he twin linked?
No, he doesn't have shit. He's an action doer.
Nice. What's the fuel mix of Grot do these days?
He moves 12 and the fuel mix of Grot makes him auto advance 6. And he has an assault weapon.
Once per game or always?
He just auto advances 6.
Oh, let's go, dude. That Grot does not blow up.
Teleport homers in your backfield.
Yeah, it used to once per game be auto advance 9.
Yeah. Do you see that he's not a vehicle?
Yeah, he's mounted, bro.
Mounted's legit the best keyword to have because there's I think 0 anti-mounted.
Man, that's what we need. Give me a GSC unit with pikes and give them anti-mounted 4-up. It's gonna be great.
Dude, I thought that the Rough Riders would have anti-mounted. No, it's anti-vehicle, the taser goods or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't. They're kind of jousting.
They got pikes as well, right?
That's fair for sure.
I think they're melta lances or something weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, melta or haywire.
Very cool. The weird one is don't the AdMech walkers have anti-walker?
Yes, they have anti-walker 2-up.
They have an anti-walker?
So the whole joke is if you play the AdMech mirror, dude, it's like whoever charges first wins.
I'm like, honestly, that stupid meme 9 Taser Lance AdMech chicken list is terrifying for CK players. Because like a squad of those can charge in and kill like 2 war dogs.
Dude,
as long as they hit on
Matt,
4s.
Matt Wood is over here taking notes.
I love it. Mm-hmm.
He has been hitting me up about AdMech. I think he's like the only guy locally that like actually plays AdMech, so I'm very interested in hearing his thoughts about him. I know Noah's been tinkering with him. Tanner does not play AdMech. See, by saying this, I know he'll now go play them for 3 weeks, and I'll learn everything I need to know about the faction. Actually, I won't learn anything about. Okay, I won't learn anything about the stratagems. I'll learn what the units do, though.
I'll learn a lot about the vibes, dude.
Yeah.
I don't know the stats, but like, dude, those guys, they hit so hard. You have no idea.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Is the stratagem 2 CP? Is it a battle tactic? Doesn't matter. You use it every time. You always have the CP for it.
Oh man.
Very nice. All right. Well, I think that about wraps us up for today. Join us back next week. I'll be in Vegas, and I think these guys can't be bothered to do anything without me. So we'll see you back in 2 weeks to finish up season. Work. To finish up what is this? Our second full year for our third LVO episode.
It'll be episode 60.
60. Very nice. So anyway, with that all being said and done, thank you so much for joining us. I've been Tyler.
I've been Nick.
I'm Lucas.
And we will see you in just 2 weeks to review how I definitely won the Las Vegas Open. Thank you for joining us.